the question starts with why. Like, why are we creating this report in the first place?
Yeah.
That will, in a lot of cases, like half the amount of reports you're producing in the first place. Because if there's no reason why, ultimately it's like, okay, we have this data. What are we going to do with it? What does that tell us to do next?
Yeah. Attribution is so limited in terms of what it can and can't tell you that to assign credit for influence pipeline to specific activities, specific campaigns, specific assets within specific channels is really risky behavior.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Demand Decoded. Dan here with you today, joined by Phil in the studio. And in today's episode, we are covering reporting. We speak about data a lot on this podcast. Marketing teams typically have tons of data, dashboards full of data, reports everywhere, but far fewer actually have a clear process for turning that data into meaningful decisions. So in this episode, we're actually going to pull apart, this trap that's happened around reporting where metrics are reported on for metrics' sake, reports are built for reporting's sake, insight is there just for the sake of having insight. And there's a uncomfortable reality there that maybe not all of this is actually helping us achieve our objectives. So yeah, we're gonna explore the actual way that we recommend going about reporting, what that looks like, and how to ask the right questions to get to the right report too.
Yeah, it's a challenge that a lot of us face. Making data actionable, making reporting useful in a decision-making context is, I think, something that all marketing teams struggle with. And there's a tendency to over-report in some ways, which is build reports based on tools that you have available, data that's present and available to you, compile it up, put it on dashboards, and then think about ways that you can, iterate on that. But it's often not aligned to or tracking towards where you need to get to in terms of optimizing the go-to-market to produce the outcomes that you need. And there's a gap there. And it's a very understandable gap. It's because it's to some degree it's the harder part of the process to sort of get agreement on. It requires multiple people at the table to think about it sometimes, but it's not unusual to see marketers surrounded by dashboards and reports, systems overflowing with them. Not all of them or not many of them having that much utility, in a day-to-day basis. So yeah, real opportunity to improve for many of us there, I think.
Before we get into the podcast today, here's a quick word from our sponsors, HubSpot. Nobody likes a spoiler, unless it's your customers telling you exactly what they need. But too bad most businesses miss out on these signals. The hints dropped in emails, the messages hidden in call logs and chats, all of it's just trapped in unstructured data. But with HubSpot, you get all of this data in one place. Their customer platform brings together the insights you need to grow your business. And spoiler alert, the more you know, the more you grow. Visit HubSpot.com today to find out more. I think one of the core issues is that because we now have so much data available, we're all running, 5, 10 different software platforms to track different things. Because the data's there, we feel the need to report on it. Just because it's there.
Yeah, and it's very much encouraged, isn't it, by all of the platforms. It's a selling point. But it's a myth, isn't it, that having data, having a report is equivalent to having an insight into what to do as a result of it. But it's sold and it's encouraged and it's recommended by platforms because, well, they want to sell us their software ultimately, and reporting is a pretty good, value to demonstrate, because it sounds like it should be effective and helpful and powerful. So most platforms that you entertain will usually stress their reporting capability. But the key thing is you've got to work out how to use that reporting capability for your aims and goals. And again, it comes back to the job of marketing is to identify which data, which reports support what you're doing and which don't.
Yeah. The question starts with why. Like, why are we creating this report in the first place?
Yeah.
That will, in a lot of cases, like half the amount of reports you're producing in the first place. Because if there's no reason why, ultimately it's like, okay, we have this data. What are we going to do with it? What does that tell us to do next?
Yeah.
If there is nothing, do you really need that report?
Yeah. There's sort of tendency to use data as reassurance sometimes. If we can see it, then, something must be happening. Let's hope it's good. It's not built to support the conversation that needs to happen or the decision that needs to come out of it as a result. And I think if you do engage in that question, why, then it does start to bring about a very different approach to reporting and a very different outlook on what data is valuable. And it's often the missing part of the puzzle. Understanding, frequently asked to produce reports, often down at the very, very granular level, without a clear why, which is if we're successful, and sometimes you can't be successful because you've got underlying data issues. If we're successful in producing this report, in which meeting will it be discussed? With what agenda and to drive what decision? And I think challenging it from that point of view would help you to train attention onto fewer, as you say, more valuable reports that every time they're brought up and displayed, like they just show something that everybody agrees is useful, powerful, and they drive a conversation.
And we will touch on a model that can work here, but I think understanding the why, understanding that combined with where to actually get the right data are two really important things, because too often the right data to answer that question of why is actually sitting in a separate platform. When we think about, okay, what's the most meaningful marketing reports we can create? Right, well, it's looking at how we influence pipeline, how we influence close won revenue, how we influence LCV, etc. Well, that might not be accessible to marketing.
Right.
And solving that first is the challenge.
Absolutely. Having the data that a report, necessitates, is predicated on, available in the right place for reporting is fundamental. It's key, and it's often absent. As you say, a very common scenario is that even when businesses realise that revenue-based reporting is required, revenue data isn't available where it needs to be because either the integrations don't exist, or sometimes it's as simple as the properties aren't being passed, along the chain, in the right way. But there's a gap very often there. Similar gaps appear down in that much more granular level, because of data that Google has or LinkedIn has or your ABM tool has, and a lot of energy and effort goes into like trying to report on that data with or without the data being in place and to solve those gaps. But I think in many cases, if you work at the higher level and you solve those more pressing challenges, you might find that you don't have as much need or desire to fix these sort of very complicated at times, very granular reporting gaps, because they're rendered sort of like you can work in that tool for the purpose of that decision within your function because you've got the reports that you need to direct activity and behavior already in place at the top. The gaps that exist in data that are sort of highlighted when reporting is requested or asked or created without the why being present forces attention and effort to the wrong place. Which is like, let's fix this problem here when actually we could be addressing a more important problem
because
elsewhere.
You can't see it.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually, there was a segment in the last episode with Josh about how to essentially create a business case and present this back to the CEO about if you can't connect marketing with everything else that the business is doing, how on earth do you actually make the case for that?
Yeah.
Because it's one of the most important things that you can do.
And it's a topic for another day and another
Yeah.
episode, but I'll just say that there's massive importance in designing that system before implementing it. I meet lots and lots of businesses who are restricted from their ability to solve that problem effectively because one side of the equation has been designed and implemented without
Yeah.
any or much thought about the broader organization. And actually, if you can get ahead of, as a team, as a revenue team, marketing, sales, leadership together, get ahead of that kind of topic and think about designing a system that harmonizes and unifies data, then you can do so much easier than if you try to retrofit solutions into systems that have been built without consideration for the full customer journey. I suppose
It's definitely an episode we should cover.
It's a hard challenge, but if you are able to foresee that happening and plan for it, wow, you can be in a much better place when it comes time to do this connection.
Yeah. Okay, I think that the next thing I want to touch on is the scale of reporting when it comes to like maturity, scale of business, and when you can allow yourself to operate at different kind of levels. Because we work with a range of businesses, some marketing teams of 5, some marketing teams of 100 plus, and there are different levels to reporting you can allow yourself when you get to that kind of scale. Like if you're a marketing team of 5, you need to be very intentional with your time, your priorities, where you can have the biggest impact. And if you're sweating it out in, like you said, the ABM platforms, your LinkedIn campaign manager, trying to improve your click-through rate by 0.01%, it's not going to have the same impact as elevating that thinking all the way up to your revenue streams and how you can actually get more revenue from partners, how you can get more revenue from expansion, how you can, increase these pipeline sources. Like that's where you can pull bigger levers at that kind of scale. Whereas if you have a team of 100 and, you've got a team of 3 SEO specialists, of course, they're going to be in the data of how to optimize that platform beyond belief because, well, that's their specialized role.
Yeah.
And it's the job then of the senior marketers in the team to roll that all back up into the revenue streams, the pipeline sources, and take a top-down approach to that. So, yeah, like the small teams, I think of myself, like I am not in the granular data of particular campaigns, any particular channel really. I will allow myself a bit of time to dip in occasionally, but I don't spend much time there because I can't.
Yeah, you've touched on 2 very relevant things there, which is, size of team, maturity of business, of scale doesn't change the priority order of reporting, right? You still need that top-down approach so that granular reporting that exists for a specific purpose within a specific part of your business and team does roll up to a leadership level view of marketing, and business performance. It doesn't remove the need for that higher level, that upper level of reporting. It simply adds the need for the lower, more granular level, and it adds it in most cases because of the volume of activity within a subsegment. So meaning that you've got a greater ability to make a measurable improvement or impact by adjusting something because there's spend there that justifies it. So if you've got large events, project programs, large PPC campaigns, you're doing high volumes of work in a specific channel or style, then you have the ability to influence it much more with relatively minor adjustments, necessitating the need for clear reporting, but doesn't remove the need for reporting above. And you also touched on another thing which I thought was interesting, and it's gone from me now, so we'll come back to that.
It will come as soon as I start talking now for about 10 seconds.
It'll return to me,
it'll
absolutely.
Come back. But let's just talk about that top-down model for a moment, shall we? Because I think when you're a marketing leader thinking about more than just new business, you think about all the revenue streams that are possible for the business, and that's marketing working in conjunction with all the other functions,
Yep.
customer
Customer
success,
success and sales.
sales. Then, that's the first level. What are our revenue streams as a company? How can marketing impact those things? That then gives you the ability to drill down into each of those. Let's take new business as an example. How do you then drill down into the sources of that new business? How much is coming via your website? How much is coming via partners? How much is coming via your network, referrals, etc.? Okay, like what are the conversion rates of those
Yep.
from pipeline to revenue? How do we improve those? Are there particular areas of focus that we need to invest more time in, invest more budget in? Are there areas we just want to scrap altogether? Are there risky areas that are, trending downwards or are risky because they outweigh everything else? And if we lose them, then we're absolutely screwed. Then you can drill into each of those. For partners, okay, which partners are giving us the best revenue? How do they convert? How do we improve those partnerships? For pipeline from the website, okay, let's break that down by self-reported attribution. What's our best channels? How's that budget split? And then you can go down into the channel metrics. It's just, I'm sure you've called it onions before, right? Where
There's always an onion. Yeah, absolutely.
There's always an onion in marketing.
Yeah, for marketers who've existed in what the traditional marketing landscape has looked like for, a decade, making that change to thinking about, from how many marketing outputs do we generate? How many leads or contacts or MQLs or other things that we fight to defend the quality of, to how much revenue results from the work that we do, really does lift the lid on a broad range of topics. It does move you from your mindset from marketing communications to marketing.
Yeah.
And, pretty soon, okay, first of all, you're able to take a really new view of marketing's role and what an effective go-to-market is, because you're looking at it through the lens of pipeline created and revenue closed, right? That's a big shift. But no sooner than you do that, then you start to realize that actually pipeline takes many forms. And, marketing, the way it's sort of conventionally viewed, is one aspect of that, or is maybe being thought of only as digital marketing or demand generation marketing. And there's a broader array of channels that you can deploy your effort to and try to optimize. And then there's also the parts of the customer journey beyond marketing where you can be supportive and play a role. So within the sales process, within the expansion process, that simple change, of thinking about revenue as opposed to thinking about the MQLs on your dashboard or the leads in your CRM, opens the door to all of those ideas and conversations, and then gives marketing a new set of ways to think about supporting the business in investment efficient ways.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is, what are the best sources of revenue currently that we can push, what levers there are, and it gives you a broader array of things to test and try too.
Yeah.
So really does. This change obviously started, well, it was a long process for us, right? It was the journey of saying, well, we want our marketing to be commercially valuable to our organizations. We're not satisfied with lead generation that looks great from a marketing report point of view. That age-old problem of marketing presents something, looks great, sales presents something, looks completely different. Not satisfied with lead generation, which might look great in a marketing context, but is very debatable from a revenue and sales perspective. To, we want to create revenue. We want to do the things that create revenue. So now we're aware of that and we're thinking about it. And now you're looking at the whole business and thinking, well, how can we grow? And that's really great. Exciting for marketers to make that shift.
Yeah, it ties every function together because, once again, you're working towards the same goal and it's visible that you're doing that.
And I mean, the findings, when you start to sort of dig into that, can be so, well, surprising to some extent, right?
Yeah.
Businesses will find that so much of their revenue and pipeline is the product of, to some degree, word of mouth, as well as, marketing touches and activity, which, no marketing dashboard or attribution report will tell you that word of mouth has played a role, and yet it's
So
playing
true,
quite a big role. So you start to think, well, how can we foster great word of mouth between our existing customers and our future customers and so on?
It's not going to show you that in Google Analytics.
Absolutely, absolutely. The UTM campaign of your ad click is not going to be word of mouth. And that's just one example of many ways in which the reality differs from the data in some respects, which comes back to where we are, which is to say you've got to be really careful about what data you trust and what reports you therefore create and use, because you need to know that they are aligned to what you're trying to achieve. And there's quite a bit of reporting going on out there, which is reporting on the stuff that's reportable.
I just want to interrupt the show to bring you another podcast on HubSpot's podcast network called Marketing School. If you need practical marketing strategies that actually work, Marketing School from the HubSpot podcast network is essential listening. Hosts, as you'll know, Neil Patel and Eric Sue, give you daily 10 to 15 minute episodes packed with actionable tactics from their own marketing experience, building and scaling multiple companies. In their recent episode on AI in marketing, they explain why your customers can switch AI tools faster than you think, and how that changes the way you need to position and market your own products. Not your typical episode you'd expect, but packed with insights and unexpected learnings that you can take into your own business. There's daily insights, real results. Listen to Marketing School wherever you get your podcasts. If you're listening to this right now, you're probably doing what every other B2B marketer is doing, asking, how do I get my brand cited in ChatGPT? How do I show up in Gemini, Perplexity, Claude? And at Blend, we help you do exactly that. We engineer visibility in AI search for B2B companies. We build the content, implement the technical optimization, and track your performance across every major AI platform. So when buyers are researching solutions like yours, your brand gets recommended. We know how to engineer visibility in AI search because we built a framework and proved it on ourselves first. And this took months of experimentation, but in the end it delivered 470 high-value prompt appearances, 80% citation rate across prompts, and 250% more AI-sourced leads. We proved the framework, and now we're starting to roll it out across customers who are seeing similar results. So if you want to dominate AI search in your category, visit blendb2b.com to learn more about our AI search services. How you attribute success. We touched on this yesterday, which is the fact that whilst you might run a Google ad campaign, you might have a booth at an event, you might have all these things that will give you that like first touch point in terms of attribution. When you actually think about the impact of marketing and what it takes to generate pipeline, what it takes to generate revenue, there is not one single thing ever that is responsible for that deal. Like, even if your software attribution tells you that organic search or PPC were the result of this thing, there are so many other things that happened in that buyer journey, in most cases for B2B purchases, which are complex, that you can't just then decide to put all of your budget into that one channel, because while software attribution might be telling you that this source was responsible for all of that revenue, it is simply not the way that B2B buying happens. And that's when you have to just take attribution and take reporting at that level with a pinch of salt, understand that it has biases towards those channels. It's still very useful to see where did they originate from, what channel captured that demand, what channel actually gave us the lead in the first place. Incredibly useful to know, but understanding that marketing is a connected suite of touch points, a connected suite of like brand visibility ultimately across the entire buyer journey, all the way up till they're a customer and you continue to market to them for expansion and etc. Look,
which ad created this deal, for example, when it's a complex, consultative sale with multiple influencers and deal, deal participants? It's not a logical question, and attribution will try to answer that question, but it's not a logical question to answer because there are so many factors affecting it. Now, there are certain transactional purchases, but even when a transactional purchase happens, there's a myriad of other things that you have not caused but have happened prior to that point, and you can either be part of it or not part of it, but it's happened regardless.
I suppose, sorry, on that, it's understanding what that ad can do. The ad has
what role
the ability,
it plays, exactly.
What role does the ad play? The ad can improve click-through rate. It can improve conversions from that platform to your website. It does not. That single ad doesn't have the ability to generate that revenue for you.
No,
like
exactly.
That's what a report will tell you, but it's not true. So understanding what role that report plays and how you can use it, understanding what ads drive the best click-through rates is really useful.
Yeah, exactly.
But
exactly.
That ad hasn't generated you that revenue on its own.
No, quite. We were talking yesterday about attribution and influenced pipeline and report. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking that there's an argument, I think, for really pivoting on how you view influence pipeline, and there's a massive danger with it as well, because ultimately, as with so many things in marketing, the name that we use and that we give to a thing doesn't make it clear what it means, and that sooner or later presents traps for people. But attribution is so limited in terms of what it can and can't tell you, that to assign credit for influence pipeline to specific activities, specific campaigns, specific assets within specific channels is really risky behavior, because it's all made up stuff. I mean, I look frequently at the attribution models that are available to us in our tools, and I just think, God, this is all just fantasy stuff. And if you try to say, well, proportionally this was more effective than that, I think you run the risk of making the wrong decisions very, very frequently. But having influence pipeline as a sign, as a signal that the work you're doing in that medium, in that channel, is actually getting in front of buyers who do buy and has potentially influenced pipeline, is a useful takeaway. But it's the amount of influence pipeline that isn't. And that's what, where attribution's, sort of opposition comes from, which is we try to use it as this, declarative, explicit measurement metric, and we can't actually. It's so lacking in completeness that it's not reliable in that sense. So take it as a proof point if you want that you are operating in a channel or in a place where your buyers are active, but not that it is the thing that is producing 40% of the deal, and this page only produced 9% of the deal over here. Those models are really interesting to look at when you think about it, which is here we've got 5 or 6 actions with a deal amount distributed across them, and that is so far from the real journey that the buyer's been on, and so far from what will be consistent on the next deal and the next deal and the next deal, to be meaningless.
And so confined to what's actually measurable as well.
Totally confined, and cannot advise you beyond what can be measured. And if you only optimize for what can be measured in that way, then you will ultimately, at best, optimize for in-market demand. At worst, just completely go off the rails and invest in the wrong things when it comes to long-term sustainable growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we want to touch on campaigns a little bit?
I think it's a common query and challenge, so it's worth having a bit of a look at it. I have many problems with campaigns.
Same. I've got a problem with the word.
Right. Yeah. Well, share. Tell us.
Campaign can mean so many different things to different companies and different people. A true campaign that you see from the likes of HubSpot, Salesforce, like thinking of B2B examples here, is multi-channel, multifaceted, one single message distributed in like multiple different ways, different areas. It runs like consecutively for a long duration. They have a way to measure lift over pipeline. Like it's a carefully considered exercise that doesn't just operate on its own as well.
Mm-hmm.
But so many businesses use the word campaign to basically just create two pieces of content around a particular topic, and like literally down to that level. Or a campaign is just like a few different things, but it's around this same topic. That's not a campaign. It's just marketing, like to your audience. At the end of the day, just a particular niche in your audience.
And then no sooner have they done that than there's a desire to have campaign reporting that shows them how effective their campaigns are. But there's two very real fundamental challenges with campaign reporting specifically, which are that one, you can't, when you're running a campaign, you can't prevent your buyer from engaging with non-campaign assets and touch points. They cannot be extracted from one another. So the fact that the campaign reports engagement isn't proof that the many other things that were going on in parallel didn't have engagement. And so there's no ability to sort of like do that kind of cutout, which I think just undermines a lot of what we try to do with campaign reporting at the get-go. The second issue is time. The reportability of a campaign is completely tied to time in terms of its performance and its execution. And when you look at those results, will dramatically change what that campaign tells you it's generated. So what that means is that it's very hard to produce meaningful reports across campaigns, because when you're looking at one campaign's results, the other campaign isn't running, or the other campaign is 12 months old, and if it's generating something, it's massively wound down. I think very few businesses truly sort of set campaign reporting timelines before they run them, but deciding whether you're going to count revenue over 12 months that's influenced as being a result of the campaign, or only 6 months, completely changes what reports will show you when you go to look at them. So those two facts make campaign reporting at a high level a bit of a non-starter. Campaign reporting at the campaign level can be done as long as you understand what it is and isn't telling you about the things that are having the effect on the revenue, that may not be in the campaign, at all. I think that's really interesting. And then, like you said, is a campaign simply a standard bit of marketing, which I prefer to think of as adding to the whole, adding to our whole ability to be known, to be found, to be visited, and to be like engaged with in terms of high intent. Most marketing, in my mind, is adding something to that organizational capacity. A campaign is justified, I think, when you want to do something that's very singular, stands apart from that broad go-to-market, and what you'll measure and why. Then okay, you've got a potential case for using campaign thinking. But very often campaigns, as you say, are just marketing broken up into these exercises without really heaps of thought about what the data you'll produce will tell you or how you use it. And that, is another challenge here, which is, okay, run a campaign, create campaign-based reporting, create a campaign dashboard. Are those two campaigns comparable in any way? Is that what do you learn by comparing campaign performance, and what do you do next? If you can't answer that question, then the data you build, the reports you build, may not be of any use to you.
So true. Your first point around not being able to influence what campaign, like isolating a campaign so it's only those touch points, is so true. And the risk I've seen with campaigns in general, reporting around campaigns is something we hear so often, right, in asked to generate. But I've seen campaigns run separately from other marketing activity to mask issues that are going on there. There's
Interesting.
a fundamental issue with the brand. There's a fundamental issue with the website, with something, which is why we need this campaign, and it needs to live separately because everything else that we've got is not up to scratch. So, like, we have
That's
these
risky.
separate landing pages, we have all these separate offers that live separately because, well, we need to get round to doing that other stuff. And, I've seen this plenty of times now. And, yeah, it's a big risk to pour a lot of effort into those isolated campaigns and not think anybody else is going, like, they're going to just live solely in those campaigns and never touch your website, never touch all the assets that you have outside.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this isn't reporting. This is just my gripe with campaigns in general.
We're not in control, are we? We're not in control of what buyers do. And that is, I think, a sort of an attempt to some extent control buyers in a way that, we hope will mean that they see and engage with this, not that. But we have so little ability to govern that, like none, effectively, that it's a false hope. And if you're building campaign structures as masks for other issues, then it's probably better to look at the root issue and fix it. I know how hard that can be, right? Time,
without a doubt,
cost. These things are to some degree painful.
It's easy for us to say. I know.
It is. It is. And I also always think, well, I haven't seen it all, so there may be listeners, who think that they've got campaign reporting insights that are very powerful and credible, and it isn't as simple as we're making out here. My question would always be, right, take me on the journey then. From you've got the report, what is that business process around meeting to discuss it? Identifying decisions out of it and changing behavior going forward, because that's what I'm really interested in. That's what a report should enable. It should tell us what to do next. As well as what has happened. And so I'd be really interested to hear any thoughts on that. But I think that it is, for most businesses, things like that are not being used in the effective way that they think they might be. And actually, there's a lot more commonality between small and medium and large businesses in terms of what reports are most important from a marketing driven growth perspective and from a end-to-end customer lifecycle perspective too.
Absolutely. Okay, one thing, this isn't on our agenda, by the way, but I'm throwing it up anyway, is, I think it's important, the over-reliance on quantitative reporting as opposed to qualitative reporting. We've spoken numerous times now on this podcast about my love for the things we have going on in like Ask Elephant that are providing real qualitative insights from buyers joining discovery calls, consultation calls, customer calls. The insights from there are just fascinating. Hearing firsthand, but like not having to actually go through the effort to listen to these calls, having AI workflows that, pick up the call, separate the data out into what we need from a marketing perspective to give us buying triggers, category entry points, service areas, all of the information that we'd try to somehow gather maybe like through a form or something like that. Just having it in the buyer's language, exactly what they need, taking out any context that we actually want, is just incredible. Like when you have both of those things, I think it's really powerful, and it does allow you to like broaden your thinking around what's truly working, what isn't, how you need to pivot, because you're not only looking at quantitative data, which is important, don't get me wrong, but hearing from your buyers, from your customers about their pain points, what they're looking for from your offering is great.
These innovations, these tools have made the dream of smarketing, like real.
I haven't heard
Remember that? Yeah,
marketing in a while. Yeah.
throwback term.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of died because nobody could do it.
Yeah.
Like
Bring back marketing.
the dream. Well, you can now because the dream always was that sales are the ones having the in-depth quality conversations with the prospects. They are the source of incredible information of incredible value to the demand generation exercise. So a feedback loop where sales report what is, what's coming out of those conversations was the sort of notion behind aligned sales and marketing, aka smarketing. But, that's very hard to do, right? These, salespeople, they've got a busy job to do. Passing quality information back requires what we can now do with LLMs, which is to analyze, which is to summarize, which is to sort of compare and cross-reference and extract, insights which are, not one-offs, but they show us trends and so on. Salespeople without these tools could never do that reliably, consistently, and if we tried, we'd probably stop eventually because, imagine those meetings where marketing sits down with sales and says, okay, tell us analytically what have the 100 customers you've spoken to this month said is the most important thing to them right now. Like, nonsense.
It'd be biased on the call they had, an hour before the meeting or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like none of us can do that at scale, easily. They would have to spend hours and hours and hours, reviewing each call, identifying what they think are the compelling points, cross-referencing and comparing them, doing some statistical analysis on that. It's like crazy. So this is the first time, I think, where all businesses have the ability to build that feedback loop, which has often been talked about, based on that. And like you say, those insights, in addition to the data that you've got, are the best way to optimize go-to-market for real results, for real pipeline results.
Absolutely. Like, if there's one thing to take away from this episode, it's how you can combine qualitative insights now using AI tools that will just give you immediate feedback loops from conversations happening that you're not aware of. And actually, by the time this goes out, when's this going to go out? Before the 24th? Yeah. So on the 24th of March, we are running a live event about this exact thing.
Yeah, super duper.
So we'll link in the description to register for that because you'll see exactly how it's done.
Yeah, it's a very, very, very cool area. And there's so many ways to achieve it, right? Like, okay, if you don't have access to a dedicated tool for it, get recordings, make transcripts, use Claude, use Copilot if that's your ally. Like, there's ways to do this. And it's a game changer, isn't it? I mean, self-reported attribution was a game changer,
right? Yeah,
because it gave us buyer insight that we couldn't get from data.
But this is like self-reported attribution on steroids, because big time. I see like our sales team asking how they heard about us, and you don't just get a few words. Then it's like a paragraph from Ask Elephant in this case about the context of how they found us, why they clicked on our ad instead of somebody else's, etc. Yes,
which lets you build your ICP definition. Build your go-to-market, build the messaging and the campaigns and the content that you want to run. And when I say campaigns, I'm talking about, ad creative primarily. So powerful.
Love it. All right. Should we wrap it up there?
Let's do that.
Any closing thoughts?
No, I think it was a good discussion. Start with why. Ask yourself what will this data do for us, before we go and spend serious time, effort and money trying to actually make it possible. Begin with the why, and you'll always build the best possible dashboards. And actually, the final thought is probably that from a marketing standpoint, most of the good work starts by looking at pipeline and working backwards. And from a reporting standpoint, an effective set of reports and dashboards will start with pipeline, and then what contributes to pipeline, or start with revenue, what contributes to revenue, what contributes to pipeline, what contributes to work through it that way, and you'll have a dashboard that actually, I think, means something whenever it's brought up and shared.
Yeah. Cool. All right, let's wrap it up there. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Demand Decoded, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks,
everyone. Before you go, if all you can think about right now is AI search and how buyers are using it to find products in your category, we should talk. At Blend, we've built a proven framework for answer engine optimization. We tested it on ourselves first and saw 470 high-value prompt appearances, 80% citation rate, and a whopping 250% increase in AI source leads. That's real high intent leads who are finding us through AI search. We've since rolled it out to dozens of clients who are now seeing similar results. Our AI service engineers your visibility in ChatGPT, Perplexity, AI mode, Gemini through structured content, schema markup, and continuous optimization, and measurement through our partner Scrunch. If you want to show up when your buyers are asking AI tools for recommendations in your category, find out more about our AEO services at blendb2b.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.